A few years ago, when name, image, and likeness first became a big thing in college football, Nick Saban had pushed back against it. Now, he never was against players getting paid. He said that NIL gave his players more opportunities than ever before to earn money. But he said that the current model with no guidelines, no regulations was unsustainable, and it will give players too much power to where it will create pay for play. And when Nick Saban, after he coached his final game at Alabama, he realized that the sport he grew up coaching for so many years was no longer recognizable for him. A year ago, Alabama was a 4th and goal stop away from making it to the national championship. When they lost to Michigan in the Rose Bowl, right after that game, the day later, Nick Saban, he walks into his offense. He's putting in work like he always does. And then he ends up having a line of players at his office. Instead of, being sad about how the outcome of the game transpired because, they were once again one play short of making it to the national championship, guys are asking about playing time and how much more NIL money they can earn. And that right there was the main reason for why Nick Saban decided to retire. Because the sport has now become all about how much money can you get instead of prioritizing the team and the future for a lot of these players. Instead of trying to find a school that's the best fit for them, that gives them the best chance to get developed for the NFL so they can earn the even bigger bag at that level, you now have players such as Nico Iamaleava that are just bag chasing and not really putting their development in the forefront when it comes to making decisions. And the current Nico Iamaleava situation that's gone on between him and Tennessee, he recently asked for $4 million in NIL revenue. Tennessee wasn't really willing to budge, and then he decides to no-show practice. It was the first NIL holdout that we've had of this magnitude. And there's some rumors that say that he was even willing to hold out of Tennessee's playoff game. He was trying to use that as leverage in his NIL negotiations. And now with Nico in the transfer portal, it looks like he's leaning towards going to UCLA, where he's going to make even less NIL money than what he was making at Tennessee. This pretty much was everything that Nick Saban was warning us about when it came to name, image, and likeness. Remember, we initially thought that NIL was going to allow players to get compensated from their name, image, and likenesses in commercials, sponsorships, brand deals. They could sign autographs now and get paid for that as well. But all it's been is pay for play disguised and the biggest lie in college football. And I never understand when anytime a player asks for money and you have folks in the media who end up siding with the player saying that, oh, the NCAA has been making so much money off these guys for so long, they deserve to get paid what they're asking for. I get so irritated when I see this because it's not like these guys aren't getting paid. Nico is making $2.7 million. How much of a bigger slice of a pie does he need? These players, just because they have these insane NIL demands, doesn't mean that these schools, these coaches are obligated to concede to them. It's an open market. You can go wherever you feel gives you the best chance to get paid. But at the same time, these teams don't have to cave to your demands. And now you have players that are less prepared for the NFL than what they've ever been, because instead of trying to find a program that's the best fit for their skill set, they rather find the schools that gives them the opportunity to cash out while they don't get developed properly, and they end up going to the NFL missing out on an even bigger payday because they're not good enough to even get to a second contract. And this is what Nick Saban was trying to point out. But you had a lot of people who were ignorant when Nick Saban first made these comments. They wanted to use the whole argument saying that, oh, Nick Saban's just mad because he no longer is the only coach who can pay these players. He's mad that there's going to be a level playing field. Now, Alabama isn't going to have the big talent advantage that they used to have. No, that never was the reason for Nick Saban's comments. And now we look back at his warning and it's come true. And now all of a sudden, people are starting to realize the nightmare that NIL has turned into that made Nick Saban against it initially. It never had anything to do with players getting compensated. It had everything to do about how pay for play is what this sport has turned into. You got colleges that are stealing players off other teams. Deion just called out Virginia for pretty much tampering with one of the running backs that was on his team, saying that, hey, brother, we'll give you way more money if you come play for us, despite him not even entering the transfer portal. This is what college football is now. It's the wild, wild west. There was a Big 12 staffer that said that if you're not tampering or you're not trying to poach players off other teams, you're putting your university and your squad at a disadvantage. Because if everybody's doing it and you don't want to adapt, then you're going to end up getting left behind and you're not going to be able to succeed in this new landscape of college football. And Nico Iamaleava, from the potential playoff holdout to the spring practice holdout, is what Nick Saban feared the most when it came to name, image, and likeness. We have been fooled. We've been duped because we thought that all this was these guys were going to be in Dr. Pepper commercials, Hulu commercials, doing some promotion for Uber Eats. But I ain't see Nico Iamaleava in that commercial, did you? I ain't see Nico in no Dr. Pepper commercial. I ain't see him in no Uber Eats commercial. Hell, I barely seen him post any sponsors or brand deals on his Instagram page. So NIL has been disguised as this facade when all it is now allowing these schools to just pay these players and make it like the NFL. And that is what Nick Saban feared the most about name, image, and likeness. And now we all are starting to see the problems that have arisen from this and why Nick Saban was so fearful of this. I don't think that he was against players getting compensated. All it does is help Alabama. They can pay anybody. Nick Saban, you know what his mantra is. He'll give you a warning, and then when you don't listen, he'll use it to continue to dominate. And unfortunately, it got to a point where Nick Saban was just fed up and he didn't want to put up with it anymore. We were a 4th and goal away from making it to the national championship. And a day later, instead of you being sad about it, being in your feelings about it, you're like, man, how much PT am I going to get, coach? How much are you going to pay me to stay? Do you not know how devastating that had to be for Nick Saban? Him and Miss Terry used to open their doors on holidays for players to come to their house. They get a nice cooked meal. It used to be about building a brotherhood, building a bond, building a relationship with your players, and trying to help them blossom into the best version of themselves so they can make it to the NFL and get an even bigger bag. But no, you want these players who want to get it all right away while deprioritizing the NFL and peaking early in college when they're too short-minded to realize that if you chase the bag in college and you don't get developed properly, like what has happened with Nico Iamaleava, that money's going to eventually run dry very fast. And then you're going to miss out on the big generational bag where you got quarterbacks signing $200 million deals in the National Football League, but since you didn't get developed properly because you didn't go to the team that was the best scheme fit for your abilities, you went to the team that offered you the most money, and then you ended up not becoming a good enough player to warrant getting that generational kind of money at the next level. The excuse that Nico's camp is throwing out for why he transferred from Tennessee is that they didn't want to change the offense around for him. And if that was the issue, you should have never went to Tennessee in the first place. But that was what Nick Saban's point was. You see what Nick Saban was trying to say? Nico, and his family thought Tennessee would change their offense around for him. But they were naive to believe that because Josh Heupel's offense, look, these coaches, as much as they want to develop these players for the NFL, they still want to win. And Josh Heupel's offense gives Tennessee the best chance to do that. If Nico and his camp truly cared about Nico being in the right system to prepare him for the NFL, instead of chasing the bag, they should have went to a school that ran a system that gave them the best shot of having Nico ready in the NFL, that put Nico in somewhat of a NFL style offense. Instead of going to Tennessee, he should have stayed home and went to USC or went to a school like Miami or a school that ran a pro style system. Now you want to cry wolf and use this as a cop out for why you overplayed your hand when you really was seeking a bigger payday. That's why they say money or the love of money is the root of all evil. And this is what Nick Saban feared the most. And the Nico Iamaleava situation has made Nick Saban's NIL warning come true. Guys are chasing the bag, not prioritizing development, and they're missing out on the generational money that they would be getting in the NFL if they would have prioritized their development more instead of just trying to cash out early in their careers.